Voices amongst the static. A glitch in the simulation. A broadcast with no origin. You have found the Phenomenauts podcast. Hello, you colonies of chaotic calcium and other assorted elements. You have tuned into the Phenomenauts, a bi-monthly podcast where we look at the weird, wonderful and mysterious happenstances of this and occasionally other universes. Your hosts are myself, D, the awesome Amber,
Hey-up,
and the illustrious Oscar.
Ahoy hoy.
Don't forget we're on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, Twitter and Transistor, so please give us a like, follow, share, comment, download. We just love hearing from you fine folks. Alright, admin out of the way, how is everybody doing?
I'm, to steal one of Oscar's, I'm peachy keen. I got a little snack pot of different confectionaries from the shop, and I've eaten a marshmallow for the first time in like a decade, so that's pretty tight.
Oh, very nice. I'm pretty good. I've had a cup of coffee about 4 hours ago, and I'm still coasting off that.
I mean, I've been on holiday, so I can't talk shit. Like, my life is a fucking heaven. It's a paradise.
It's a paradise on Earth, just like Massachusetts.
Okay, then. Alright, so this week, Oscar, you're going to be starting us off if you'd like to let us know what you brought to the table.
Okay, so...
We have a table?
It's a metaphorical table. It's like, you know... Also, we can't be here like all three of us in person anymore, but I like to think there's a sort of cognitive Plato-esque space where the three of us are still sat at a table recording.
That's the idea of a table.
Yeah, the idea of this podcast remains.
A five-dimensional hypertable.
Yes, I like this.
So I'd like to begin our journey in space, as we all love space.
Yeah, I love space.
With a little spacecraft called Deep Impact.
Ooh.
So, Deep Impact was a NASA space probe that was launched on January 12th, 2005. Its mission to seek out strange, cool rocks and to boldly go where no spacecraft had gone before, the Comet Tempel 1. Its job was to collect samples, and it was a pretty cool little device. I'm not going to go into it too deeply, but this could be a future little dip if somebody wants. It did this thing where it like released an impactor into the comet, so it just literally fired something to smash into the comet to like...
I read about this.
I think we might have covered it, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like a cool little nifty guy. Yeah, so it did that. It did its mission, and everyone was quite happy. It then went off to do other bits, and it passed by Earth, and everyone was happy. Until the date of August 11th, 2013. The time was 38 minutes past midnight, 49 seconds, and a sixth of a second. When all of a sudden...
incredibly specific.
So precise.
Suddenly, contact went down. Something was wrong. They couldn't get in contact with it. They couldn't tell it what to do. Obviously, there was something wrong.
Oh, no.
And what was wrong was essentially this computer, this marvel of science, had a time, sort of built-in time computer, where it would count with a 32-bit integer. It would count tenths of a second, starting from January 1st, 2000.
Oh, God. Is this what I think this is?
I can see where this is going.
I know where we're going.
So I'm just going to
fool me, Boardman.
Just do the quick maths for you here. So essentially 32-bit bit integer sort of thing for the time. That means there's 32 switches that can be on or off at any given time. And the more you pile them up, the more it increases the selectivity of varieties. So with 1, you've got on and off. And then with 2, you've got on, off, on, off, on. It's great. Now, 2 to the 32 comes up with quite a large number. I'm not going to read it out to you. But if you essentially convert that into tenths of a second from January 1st, 2000, would you like to guess when the date when all of those integers are full is?
I would love to guess, but I'm not as specific as you are, so I doubt I could replicate whatever it was that you said before. But is it what you said before?
It was what I said before. Would you believe
Oh, I'm
it?
so clever.
It was all an overflow error. Oh, oopsie daisy.
It's a Y2K.
Which leads me back to my main topic today, which you've already guessed it. It's Y2K.
Oh my god! Yeah, because this was like, I was young enough to not be paying attention. But I think nowadays the memes would be fire.
Oh my gosh, yeah, they would be redonkulous. Like, I obviously like was not sentient. Well, I was alive, but not sentient enough yet to remember the whole Y2K thing. But my god, I would have just been like, how can I shitpost this till the end of time? Because everyone genuinely believes that everything mechanical is going to break down at the very
thinking of
specific
memes.
time.
I'm thinking of
I
memes
know,
right
yeah.
now.
Oh, I know, right?
Well, if you close your eyes, I'll bring you back even further from 2005. I'm going to bring you back to the year 1999. To give you some hints, Shrek hasn't been released yet.
Oh my goodness.
Mobile phones are not really like a thing. If massive handheld like clubs, Blockbuster was thriving.
Oh.
If you were lucky enough at the time, you'd be playing on your brand new gaming rigs of the SNES, the PlayStation, or the Dreamcast.
Wow.
Or maybe you were busy with the brand new crazy game out of Japan called Pocket Monsters. I think that's what they call it.
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh, what a time to be alive. However, with the turn of the century brought new things, and with new things comes new challenges and a catchy name to go with it. And this is where Y2K comes into effect. Now, I'm only gonna give you the fact stuff. None of this conspiracy crap. You can throw that right out there. I've had enough end of days for a lifetime. You know, I had that. I had swine flu. I had the Higgs boson collider.
I've lived through 5 so-called end of days.
Is that a quote from Witcher?
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. The 2012. God damn it. Right. So I'm gonna just keep to the stuff that we know.
I'm feeling old just by the
got
sheer amount of
documented.
apocalypses we've lived through.
I'm also a little bit disappointed that I haven't died yet.
Yeah, how the fuck am I still kicking?
Jesus. Promised me so many deaths. Grr.
God, I just beg for death.
The year 2000 problem, also known as Y2K, was a potential computing problem due to the date, again, the time setting of the computers. Essentially, a lot of the old computers would just display the last 2 numbers of the year, because would you believe it, in like the 1970s onwards, why would you keep writing 19 when you could just write, 73, 84, 95, just keep going. And then eventually somebody went, what happens when we need to tick it up? Because suddenly the computers are going to think it's the 1900s.
Yeah.
which is crazy.
Understandable.
So we, a lot of people sort of obviously knew this before it was going to happen. And loads of sort of companies and tech people came together and said, right, we're probably going to need to sort this, because if unchecked, a lot of things could happen. I think it was estimated, this is a really wild gap, that it could, if unchecked, it could cause damage globally from around $400 million to $6 billion to fix the aftermath.
Wow.
Now, this led to many people hoarding food, water, and toilet paper in preparation for the computer overlords rising up and punishing mankind for our cruel mistreatment of their digital beings.
Yeah.
But it's obviously not quite like that. When people say $400 to $6 billion of damage, that could simply mean we couldn't trade for several days due to system errors, which meant knock-on costs. Don't worry, you could probably still fly a plane or drive a car. They're not going to fall out of the sky.
Yeah. If it's like 6 billion in like undefined damages, like I might stub my toe.
Yeah.
That could happen. Oh.
But if you put on the front cover of a newspaper, or you just heard somebody talking about passing by and they said, oh, this thing's going to cause $400 million worth of damage, if not more, that would probably, put you a bit on edge.
Yeah.
So many people were anticipating what would happen when finally the year 2000 did come around. I bet you're both wondering what happened when 2000 finally came around.
I know. Honestly, it's 2022, and it's like ancient history now. Time moves at an accelerated rate, and we knew it was an illusion anyway.
Yeah. So the year 2000 came, and nothing happened.
What?
And it's not because there wasn't anything wrong with the computers, nor is it due to the fact that maybe our technological helpers actually enjoyed serving us. It turns out that a lot of the problems were sort of prefixed. Certain companies put in measures in place way ahead of time to sort of try and stem this issue. So a lot of the major areas were patched before it came into a big problem. A lot of countries spending a lot of money. Now, the funny thing about this is there were a couple of countries that did not really bother to try and put any, spending in to prevent this.
Okay.
And nothing really happened to them.
Oh, so they were actually like...
Yeah, so...
They got off scot-free.
South Korea, Russia and Italy decided not really to bother with any major changes, and nothing really bad happened to them. They're okay.
Well.
Yeah, so maybe it wasn't the end of the world, quote unquote. But I do have a list here of documented errors caused by the Y2K bug.
Oh, well, excellent.
I mean, obviously, a couple of countries did nothing, and, that's statistically nothing to think about, but obviously shit went down everywhere else.
Yeah,
right?
like, it's a pretty big thing to have to deal with, isn't it?
So many computers,
So, in Australia, bus ticket validation machines in 2 states failed to operate. In France, the National Weather Forecasting Service said a Y2 bug made the date on the web page show a map with Saturday's weather forecast as the first of the first of the year 19100, 19,100.
Oh my god. Time travel.
We've got, let's see. The exact same thing happened in the United States, where their master clock was kept. Just the year overflowed to 19,100.
I love the idea of a master clock. We must keep him imprisoned.
As a direct result of the Y2K glitch, at midnight, computers at ground control station ceased processing information from unspecified number of spy satellites.
Oh,
that sounds like it was a very big problem.
Okay.
The military implemented a contingency plan by 3 a.m. and restored all normal functions within 2 days.
Oh.
So, but, that one a little bit scary.
It was a little bit scary.
I think the most interesting ones come from Japan, because there were quite a few that, I think would send red flags to me. So let's see, we had the radiation monitoring equipment failed at midnight. However, officials stated there wasn't any risk to the public.
That's not a good one, is it?
The big glow over the horizon behind them, like nothing to worry about.
Don't worry about the localized aurora borealis.
In Onagawa, an alarm sounded at the nuclear power plant at 2 minutes after midnight. But that's mainly it, yeah. So those are all
we lost our poor little guy who goes around bullying comets.
Yeah.
Oh, baby.
Well, the good thing is,
goes around punching comets in the face.
Oh, precious baby.
Lands. Gunk.
The good thing is, like all of this sort of Y2K stuff. All this end of the world, it's behind us now, right? It's all behind us. Don't have to worry about it anymore. Wrong.
Sean.
Wrong.
Well,
this isn't your mum and dad's Y2K. This is the cool newer version. This is Y2K 38.
Whoa. It's 38 better.
Well, it's bigger.
Is it Y2K but for millennials?
But why 2K?
So Y2K 38 is an upcoming issue in our society, and I'm guessing by the name, I'm sure you can figure this out, it's going to happen in 2038. Essentially, very similar to the Deep Impact spacecraft I talked about at the beginning. This is a 30...
Is he coming back? Is that what happens?
Sadly not. I'm afraid that boy's still out there. Maybe one day to return. Maybe in like one of those comedic Star Trek episodes.
He's gone.
I know he's looking down on us right now.
Sure thing.
But it's similar to that, as it's a 32-bit integer overrun. And this is Unix time, which essentially means it's 32 bits counting from January 1st, 1970, which is like the 0 point for a lot of our computers. And this means that on January 19th, 2038, at 3 a.m., 14 minutes and 8 seconds past the hour, honey, you've got a big storm coming.
You know how many bus tickets I'm not going to be able to validate?
So the main concern with issues like with this sort of one coming up is that a lot of our current databases and filing systems operate using this 32-bit integer Unix system, which means that they might become corrupted and unreadable.
Oh,
that's a bit worrying. But at the same time, it's 2038. We've got, what, 16? Yeah, 16 years.
Oh,
so...
Ow.
What?
I was like, it's like 38 years away.
No, sadly not. You've only got 16 years to prepare. Now, that might be worse. I know that some people... If it's a pressing matter, they'll jump right on it. Whereas if it's in like 16 years, what's the rush?
Yeah.
So,
well, if we've seen anything, if climate change is anything to go by, we are going to be like that student scrambling at the last minute to like update everyone's time.
Sounds about right.
For computers, they might even have AI that are like fully sentient then. For them, it will be the end of the world. Time will cease.
Oh god, the poor AI.
So the Y2K 38 problem, we kind of have observed it already, thanks to an AOL server issue, where essentially it was told to keep track of time, and it was essentially 32 years. So Y2K 38, would you believe it, is about 1 billion seconds after Unix time.
Oh.
Yeah. But essentially, this server was told to keep track of all the time sort of from that point. And then they realised that it just could not operate after this point. And they fixed it now, but that was sort of like a glimpse into what is to come. Just a server crashing and being unreadable. But they fixed it, so, we should be fine. Apparently, it's also been observed in certain people playing mobile games with live time constraints, such as Candy Crush, where they'll push forward the time to get to the next day to get bonuses.
Oh, wow. What? That's crazy. Oh, wow. Oh, I actually love that. They've sold us a lie at Candy Crush. I wanted to play for more than 1 billion seconds.
No. So the good news is you don't have to worry too much right now because there are people already working on this problem. They've already spotted it. They're working on it.
I imagine they're there with Master Time chained up behind them like, come on, boffins, we've got to sort this.
Sorry, the statement with Master Time chained up behind them is really just... It's one that I couldn't just let slip past us.
Yeah, he's like a big clock. I think you fight him in a Mario game. I can't remember.
So,
please, Master Time, come to my dungeon. Let me chain you up while we come up with a solution to defeat you.
No, it'll be defeated in 2038. It's fine.
Right, cool. Got it.
So
that'll be when we see the prophecy fulfilled.
The prophecy?
Yeah, close enough.
So if you've got a 32-bit integer Unix time system, just make sure to have it updated by January 2038, and you should be fine. If you've got a 64-bit integer computer, as some now do, you don't need to panic as much. You've got a bit more time. You've got 292 billion years. So just set an alarm, and you'll be fine.
Oh, and, more Candy Crush from me.
Jesus Christ.
And that is my book report on Y2K.
All right. Yeah. What an enjoyable book report.
That, I think I love that a 32-bit thing. So that's 32 bits next to each other, and all the combinations that they can do just runs out after, from the 70s to 2038. So it's like, 68 years? Yeah. But then a 64-bit one is like 2 billion years. That's so crazy. I want to know where this master clock is, though. I'm going to search that afterwards, because I imagine it has a mustache and a crown.
Master clock.
Oh, that's great. I remember hearing one story about Y2K where they were like, oh, Y2K, or it was like Y2K20 or something like that.
Oh, I think I saw this somewhere.
Some fresh produce almost got sent to the wrong shop. And that was the story.
Yeah, that was the entire thing.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So there were one or two other events very similar, but I thought I'd just cover the broad strokes, the big boys.
The iconic big one.
The iconic, because I think there was one in the 2010. There was the 2010 problem. There was the 1999 problem as on the 9th of the 9th, 99 would have set the value to 9999, which was frequently used for information not found.
Oh, that's clever.
So
that's unclever.
There's quite a few of these that you can sort of read about, and it's interesting because obviously when they were building them back in the 70s, they just did not foresee this problem.
It seems crazy though, because at least for the Y2K thing, it's it's the 70s, let's just build them like this. Did no one say, well, at some point it's going to be 00? Is that not going to be a problem, guys?
We'll never get there. It'll be fine.
Well, look, the doomsday clock is 2 seconds from midnight. We're not making it to 2000. It's fine.
To be fair though, as someone who has in small ways been a developer of something, I'm like, if you like, that is exactly what it's like. Like there are times where you are trying to code something, you go, you know what? There is no better solution than just making this very janky system.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, people are going to look at it and go, oh, that's really janky. But actually, no. Sometimes you've been working on a project for several fucking months straight, and it's just not working. And the only solution is to put a bullshit jank timer like that in to solve it.
It's almost like that's the least of my concerns. I've got a deadline. I've got a budget.
Quite literally, this is why I like so many products end up badly designed for this sort of thing. It's because like if someone had the time, of course they would make a perfect version of it. But 9 times out of 10, our innovation is driven by capitalism, which want it on deadline. So
thanks you, the capitalism.
So just once again, your friendly reminder to fuck capitalism. And all of its subsidiaries. And with that, a word from our sponsor.
Initializing universal simulation. You have unsaved sessions.
What would you do in the event of a zombie apocalypse?
What if vampires lived among us?
Can society survive without electricity?
Would you like to start a new session?
Yes, please.
Rendering complete.
Do you enjoy exploring hypothetical, world-changing scenarios with some added humor from 3 nerds?
Utilizing the most advanced supercomputer in the universe, the human brain.
Then join us on the Trialogue, where we run the simulations so you don't have to. You can find us on Spotify, iTunes, and Transistor, and on Twitter at @the_Trialogue.
Wasn't that lovely? All right. I'm just going to barge right in and go next.
Yeah, go ham. Or like...
or turkey, or beef. Or,
I was going to say meat-free alternative.
I was going to say soy, corn alternative because vegetarian.
Bacon.
Yeah, something like that. Anyway, I'm actually on the rob again this week. I'm stealing someone else's segment. I'm sorry for this, Oscar, but this week I'm telling some secrets of secrets.
Ooh. I love this.
This week's aquatic astonishments are... the sea pickles.
Ooh.
The sea pickles.
Neither
Funniest shit I've ever seen.
Neither of you two heard of sea pickles?
No, they usually just swim in jars, don't they?
Okay, well, let me go over it again. Maybe I can get the impact I'm going for with the sea squirts.
Disgusting.
No. Fire bodies, maybe?
Fire bodies? But they're in the water.
Yeah, okay, that one's a bit nonsense. Cockroaches of the sea.
Oh,
Whoa.
now that's uncalled for.
Sea worms?
Yeah.
Better.
Sounds alright.
Yeah.
Well-rounded.
To put it plainly, I'm talking about pyrosoma, which I first saw a colony of these little friends. I was shocked because as my co-hosts can see on their respective devices, Oscar, I think I sent this to you on Messenger, and anyone watching can see. These big old friends can they're a giant blue pink opaque worm.
That they are.
With a big sort of tube-like structure with a hollow center. And when they can be really large. And when I first saw one, I saw someone basically riding it.
We're currently looking at a picture of a scuba diver literally riding a giant worm.
Yeah. And, well, I've got to make a little pause there because I've been reading a lot of Dune recently. So seeing a big old Shai Hulud of the sea being ridden really sort of sparked my curiosity. I was like, excuse me, what?
Look, I'm a big fan. I like the worm. A big worm, even better.
If you walk with rhythm, you won't attract the worm. Sorry. They can be 60 foot or 18 meters long, or if I'm being really scientific, 10.2 Oscars, which is pretty fucking astonishing when you think about it. They're also normally cylindrical or like cone shaped.
That's bizarre.
Big though, isn't it?
Yeah. It's weird that I wouldn't already know more about these, because, like, I know about blue whales and colossal squid and all those sort of things, but a giant sea worm where it's like 10 times the length of Oscar. I'm sure I should have learned about this.
Yeah. Now, I mentioned they're a colony. They're a grouping of hundreds to thousands of teeny little friends called I hope I'm saying this right. Zooids. A zooid is a single animal that's part of a colonial animal. They're multicellular, and they're very similar to sort of animals that just operate independently. The way they tend to work is they often share a common exoskeleton or are connected by a common tissue, which in the case of the pyrosomes, they share a gelatinous tunic, which is basically exactly as it sounds.
Oh, a gelatinous tunic.
You sound very upset by this concept.
Oh, not in my wildest dreams could I have put those two words together.
Hey.
Also, from my scientific knowledge, I think it's pronounced zooid.
Zooid. Oh,
Yeah.
I like this.
Because like zooplankton, but it's the fact that you break it up so you kind of have a pause in the middle and then
Got you.
do. So if it's a double O, sometimes it's not zoo, it's zooid.
So the zooids are all a few millimeters each, and they open on both sides of the sort of tube shape of the larger pyrosome, and they actually filter water using brachial baskets, which work like a sort of mesh filtering system, and they do this to catch microscopic plant cells, which basically just act as food for the pyrosome, or the zooids inside it, and the water is then sort of spat out on the inside of the tube. And this, because of this pretty fancy little filtration method, they're considered among the most effective, efficient filter feeders of any zooplankton species. How esteemed of them!
That's really nice. I
Yeah.
like them.
Right? Everything making sense so far? Anyone got any questions?
I all I'm thinking is this is fantastic, D. It's just fantastic.
Just a big worm.
It's a colony of worms that form a big worm.
Well, it's not a colony of worms. It's like lots of, I don't want to say insects, lots of very tiny. You know what it's like? It's like if a beehive had a sense of rhythm and was also like a much larger being.
Ooh, or like how ants make bridges and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they don't have a hive mind. Yeah. So a little pre-warning, this bit's a little gross. Or at least gross to think about.
What, any worse than gelatinous tunic?
True. The pyrosome is bumpy on the outside, but also very smooth.
Oh.
Ooh.
I don't want to ride it anymore.
Wait, does that mean it just basically feels like most dildos?
Oh.
Ribbed for
Yeah.
your pleasure.
Yeah.
I can't believe I just said that out loud. Some thoughts should stay on the inside of brain.
Ooh, zooid.
Just fucking shoot me. Then they have a lot of like little bumps on them, and each bump represents a single zooid. They've got little holes on the inside for each individual.
Oh, it's like, oh, here's my apartment.
Yeah, right. I love them. They're largely, basically, the way they move is kind of not too dissimilar from a jellyfish. So that it's very much influenced by currents, tides, waves, just the motion of the ocean. But they also have jet propulsion. Just jet propulsion going all Top Gun beneath the waves.
Fair enough.
But to be a bit more scientific about it, the cilia that are within the brachial baskets coordinate, and basically this allows for a sort of very slow movement.
Yes.
And it also means they create what are called feeding currents. So when they're doing the little filtration system, they're actually moving, which I've written, and I can't believe I'm saying this out loud, is a bit like having to take a step every time you need to chew, which now I've said out loud, I'm actually horrified I wrote that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's like I have no mouth, but I must scream.
Oh, it reminds me of the fact that sharks have to swim forward, otherwise they drown.
Yep.
Like, they have to ram, it's like a ramjet, they have to get the water over their gills or they drown. So these guys are like, I have to have a current, otherwise the food doesn't come. Wow.
Yeah, and I've said the best bit for last. They're shiny. Like some kind of rare Pokemon. They're just bioluminescent as fuck. Like, apparently they flash a blue-green, which is observable for like tens of meters.
Oh.
Perfect for an underwater-style Atlantean rager.
Oh my god, yeah, I'm thinking of like Poseidon just grabbing himself a deep sea worm,
like a giant pool noodle.
snapping it like a...
Whoa!
Just cracking it like a glow stick.
You don't need to crack them, do you know why?
'Cause they're gelatinous?
No. They display this in response to like other colonies, or just when they get touched, even by light. You could just, all you'd have to do was give it a little tap. You don't need to break it in half, you monster.
Okay, let me try again. Okay, so Poseidon just gently grabs a giant
This is
seaworm.
fine.
See, I'm
Don't be snapping my
envisioning.
glowworms.
I'm envisioning Poseidon coming down the steps of his palace wearing this tunic of.
Oh, gelatinous tunic. They're like,
Here he
I like what
comes."
you've done with your gelatinous tunic.
Oh, is that glowing?
Sir, you're positively glowing in that gelatinous tunic.
He's caught me in his feeding current.
So, back on topic. They got the name pyrosome, derived from the Greek words meaning pyro meaning fire and soma meaning body. So, fire body.
But we already concluded that was the dumbest thing. Is it because they make light?
Well, it's because if you didn't know really much about science at all and you just saw this thing moving under the ocean and it just basically glowed for fucking meters, I'd probably be like, that's a fire underneath the ocean.
Wow,
Because I'm
yeah.
not familiar with the
Yeah.
concept of things being... the only thing I know that's bright is the sun, and that's not in the water, because that won't
Yeah,
work.
because thinking about it, not that much creates light. Like, maybe you live somewhere where there's glow bugs and stuff like that, fireflies. But if I just looked in the ocean and I just saw things glowing, I'd be like, oh my god, what the hell? Oh
Yeah.
god, oh my god.
So yeah, any thoughts, team?
This is fantastic, D. I love it.
I know, right?
I
love
love it.
this thing.
I love it.
I love it.
For
some reason,
especially
I
Love
this.
this.
I especially enjoyed when you said the motion of the ocean.
I
Thank
know.
you.
A song started playing in my head, and I'm not even sure how that got in there.
Yeah. That leaves you, Amber. What cool sciencey shit are you talking about this week?
You know why I keep saying I love it and it's fantastic?
I love this.
Because there's a couple of things that you've just talked about that I am also talking about.
Hey, I love it when this happens.
We're not talking about the same thing, but things that I will be talking about now will make a lot more sense.
Excellent.
Fantastic. I should probably start by defining what a flagellum is, because it's going to be the centerpiece of the next few minutes of me talking. A flagellum is a hair-like or tail-like appendage that sticks out of a wide range of microorganisms. We find them in bacteria, but we also find them in other cells, such as the human sperm cell. So that tail that we all know and love, waggling around to push the sperm onto its destination, that's a flagellum. So if it helps, whenever I say flagellum, just think tail, as in the tail of a sperm. They're fantastic little structures because they're fundamentally different from, say, a tadpole, which, in fairness, looks like a sperm cell. The difference is that a tadpole can contract muscles to wiggle that tail. A sperm, not so much. I mean, a sperm is a single cell. Muscles are made up of loads of cells, all working together as a tissue to provide movement. So how does a sperm wiggle its tail? Quote, the flagellum uses the geometry of a complex cytoskeletal scaffold to harness the action of thousands of molecular motors and is capable of functioning as a semi-autonomous unit as long as it is provided with ATP. End quote. So that might have been a bit too loaded with jargon. Let me try and simplify that. The actual structure of the flagellum is such that it does the wiggling if it's given some energy. So, like those wind-up toys, you crank them up, the equivalent of giving the flagellum some ATP, which is an energy molecule, and off it goes, turning that energy into an almost clockwork motion. Wow, way to go, little fella. Keep it up, sperm. See you around, pal. So now that you've had that primer on a flagellum, I can get to the bit that melted my brain a little bit. It turns out the flagellum are kind of everywhere, and they may just hold the secret to the origin of complex multicellular life on planet Earth.
Oh.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Well, this is intriguing.
Yeah. Little wiggly tail. Origin of animal life.
Telling me more.
In the beginning, there was only simple, single-celled life on Earth. No tissues, No organs, no eyes, no brains, nothing like we see today. Just little cells floating around, waggling their little flagellum, kicking it, pure vibing. Just straight blissing. No such thing as wage theft, racism, and Tucker Carlson. I want to go back. Anyway, for billions of years, that was it. Then something changed. The heroes of our story are the choanoflagellates, the ancient ancestor of the sea sponge.
Ooh.
Choanoflagellates are single-celled microbes that sometimes like to bunch together into a colony. From their name, you might have guessed, they have a flagellum and use it to whip the water around them into a current that draws bacteria into range.
I whip my flagellum back and forth.
They do it, like they're just vibing out there, whipping their flagellum back and forth. And this is why I was saying, D, the feeding current. They would whip the bacteria into range in the current, where they would be snared by the flagellum and ultimately dissolved and eaten. Now, in sea sponges, the flow through their digestive system is achieved by the use of choanocytes. These choanocytes are almost identical to the free-living choanoflagellates. What has happened is that the free-living choanoflagellates have given up their independence to provide the fluid flow through the rudimentary digestive system of the sponge by using at that point, brand new method of cooperative action, which pretty much is what the pyrosomes do as well.
Yeah, basically.
That the cilia are very identical to flagellum, and they basically just whip all the current through so that, so like you said, it's more efficient.
Little tiny fan. Like each one's a little fan blade, in a way.
So it just kind of draws the flow through, and it's much easier to filter feed that way. Same reason why, basking sharks will just go flying around with their mouths open, because it's just better to feed that way.
I mean, same, to be honest.
Find me at the all-you-can-eat buffet with my mouth open and just running like Naruto.
That's certainly a mental image that I've got to live with now.
So what I'm saying in broad terms here is that sponges may have been the first multicellular organisms to form a functioning organ from an arrangement of differentiated cells. So all the biologists out there might be like, woo, yeah, baby. But if I've lost you, then let me try and summarize this. The first organ to ever evolve was based almost entirely on the flagellum, the little wiggly tail thing. But it doesn't stop there, oh no. Like I said before, the flagellum is everywhere. It's been proposed that the nervous system evolved to facilitate this cooperative behavior between flagellated cells. In fact, the neurons of the cerebral cortex of your brain require flagellum-associated proteins for normal development. So, brain only exists to make sure flagella work in harmony, and flagella allow brain to exist. Cool. But we can go further. Most of our organs of sensation are known to rely on flagellum-derived elements. For example, the rods and cones in your eyes are flagella derivatives. The ear depends on flagella elements during construction of the auditory receptors. The sensory cells of smell and taste, not just in humans, but mammals and amphibians, come from flagella elements. Even the organs for sensing sound and vibration in insects all involve flagella components. Researchers have even made a case for flagellum-related ciliary genes being important components in DNA replication and repair pathways. This suggests that preserving the fidelity of this flagella toolkit may be fundamental to preserving the integrity of your entire genome. And this all comes from the little waggly tail thing. It's crazy, right? And preserve their fidelity they do. There is remarkable conservation of the special features found in the choanoflagellate flagellum in almost all animals. Back in the 1970s, researchers studying polycystic kidney disease managed to identify the cause by comparing the human kidney cells to the green algae Chlamydomonas. The incredible thing about this is that the algae and humans had an almost identical gene sequence at a particular point in the DNA, despite the fact that Chlamydomonas and humans haven't shared a common ancestor for 700 million years. In all of that time, the gene had remained unchanged. Such conservation is rarely seen, and only in absolutely essential genes like the genes responsible for metabolizing glucose or forming a cell membrane, like stuff that you would die if you didn't have. This unbroken inheritance of the choanoflagellate gene is called, quite dramatically, and actually, I think deserving of the ASMR treatment as well, the flagella germline continuum.
Wow, that sounds very sciencey.
I know. And this passing of flagellum genes from one generation to the next, this flagella germline continuum, has lasted somewhere between 900 million years and 1 billion years. A not insignificant fraction of the age of the universe itself. So that melted my mind a little bit, and I stumbled across it while I was reading for an entirely different topic, which I will now also tell you about because it's weird and maybe a little bit funny. So it turns out that these flagellum genes can give sperm cells a real advantage. I mean, they code for a sperm's tail, right? If your flagellum genes are no good, you can't outswim the competition. And you can't get to the egg first, and your genes don't get passed on to the next generation, right? Makes sense? This results in a weird scenario that the healthiest sperm aren't always the ones to win the race to fertilization. Some sperm cells carry genes that allow them to excrete a sort of poison that makes sperm nearby unable to waggle their flagellum, while simultaneously excreting an antidote for themselves. And this is weird because that sly sperm might not be healthy at all. It's just good at taking out the competition and swimming fast. So it's been seen that genes that can be dangerous to the fully grown organism, in this case you and me, can end up increasing in frequency in the population as long as their effects are sufficiently beneficial for within ejaculate competition. Also, the poison that they use on each other is similar to Botox. So they paralyze each other with Botox to try and win the race, whether or not it's a good idea that they even win the race. In that way, it's kind of funny how little things change once we grow up. Seems like Plain Dirty is baked into us when we were just a little squirt of semen. We're all just big sperm, deal with it.
Fantastic. Well, I think that leads us nicely onto our next segment.
Where we don't talk about that.
Where we talk about stuff we like, not stuff we hate. Like being giant sperms.
It's just weird, like, you're cruising along, you're a sperm, you're just vibing, waggling your tail. And when you get to the other end, you're like, sweet, I brought the tail with me. And then you end up just sort of reusing the tail for everything, like, brain, use my tail. It's
just like, really, oh shit, I'm massively underprepared for the task at hand. Oh well, thankfully I brought the Swiss Army knife of cellular engineering.
Pretty much. Yeah, I mean, like you said, the pyrosomes, they use it to great effect. It's one of the most efficient filter feeders. It also allows humans to have crazy brains. It allows us to taste things and smell things and see things. Literally, we can see colour because we've got little sperm tails in our eyeballs. Like, literally, wherever you look, there's just sperm tails everywhere.
Right, this is the thing, though. You're calling them sperm tails, and they're not explicitly sperm tails. You just want me to think of everything in terms of sperm tails. I know your game. I know this psychological fuckery going on here.
You can't escape my logic, big sperm. I am also a big sperm. Yeah, you know that episode of Rick and Morty where it's like giant sperms? They didn't know how close they were to the truth, though. Sperm noises. Okay, who wants to go first?
Oh yeah, stuff we like. Well, I'm going to go first because I'm a selfish bick. I'm going to bring up the Book of Boba Fett, which I recently watched, and you know what? It was really enjoyable. Very much like the Mandalorian, where every episode has a very sort of high production value and it feels like a movie. And they really built out Tatooine in ways that made it feel a lot more believable as a setting, and I always enjoy that in larger sci-fi universes. I will preface it with, if you're thinking of watching this, I'd highly recommend getting up to date with The Mandalorian first, just because otherwise there's spoilers. One of the best observations that I think I read regarding the show is that the two main protagonists are played by non-white actors who are over 50, which challenges all the bullshit that modern-day Hollywood stands for, which I'm kind of glad about.
Wait, I thought Under the Helmet Boba Fett was played by Chris Pratt.
I'll fight you.
Don't threaten me with a good time.
Big props to Ming-Na Wen for reprising the role of Master Assassin Fennec Shand, and Temuera Morrison for reprising the titular bounty hunter Boba Fett.
He smashed it. I love it.
Yeah. So what did everyone else like? Move those meat flaps. Come on, you giant sperms.
Wiggle that flagellum. I can't think of anything, so Oscar, you go while I contemplate.
Okay, well, I've mentioned this to you two prior, but today I popped into my campus bookstore and they had discount books, and I was like, oh my gosh, because I was looking at some of these in Waterstones and they were like £11 a pop, and I was like, oh, that's quite a lot for a book that I'm not going to read for a while. I just want to have so I can eventually read it. But I picked up myself a nice collection of classics. So I got George Orwell's Animal Farm for important reading. So whenever it comes up in conversation, I can hold my chin and nod knowingly.
That's basically the entire reason I read Dune.
I got Metro 2033 by, I'm going to butcher the name here, Dmitry Glukovsky, which, as somebody who's played the video games Metro 2033, Last Light and Exodus, I really enjoyed the setting. It's like a post-apocalyptic Russia where they're all living in the subway tunnels and there's mutants going around killing people, and it sounds like a great fun time, you know? Definitely up my street.
Yeah.
And then I got two of the Isaac Asimov classics. I got myself iRobot, which I believe is like one of the fundamentals for laying down the laws of robotics. You know, don't kill somebody, do what somebody says unless it's going to kill somebody. Always protect yourself unless somebody's told you not to, unless you will kill somebody. You know, all the good bits. Yeah. And Foundation, which I've never heard about, but apparently Dean has.
So there is a TV series based on it that is it's apparently very much its own interpretation of the source material, but I very much enjoyed it. So please let me know how the book is, because I think I would very much like to enjoy that too.
And it's got sexy Lee Pace as a character in there. I'm like, I saw some screenshots. I was like, there's a hot Lee Pace.
Well, I'm not sure.
Yeah, it does have Lee Pace.
I'm not sure it'll be in the book, but if it helps, I'll think about that while I'm reading the book, perhaps.
Just make every character Lee Pace.
As a sort of New Year's, not necessarily a one-year project, I've sort of set myself to just try and read a lot of the sci-fi classics. So this is a really nice find, and the person who was selling me the book said that next month they'll be getting a load more in, so I'll have to go back and hoard.
I'll have so many books.
Have you managed to think of anything yet, Amber?
No, not really. So I'm just going to say, just the old faithful, I like brioche. I like brioche, and I don't care who knows it. I'm ready to stand on the rooftops and tear my shirt off and just scream out to the four winds, brioche, before I'm arrested, probably. I love brioche. It's little tasty loaves of bread. What could you hate?
Amber, have you not heard? Apparently, Brioche has invested in cryptocurrency.
Oh no, they're not selling NFTs, are they?
Brioche as a collective of delicious breads.
Oh, they're gonna exclusively sell them in the metaverse from now on. Oh, you can't even download Brioche yet. It's terrible. It's exclusive to. I'm gonna have to pirate some Brioche. I like the idea of it. It's not piracy. It's privateering. I'm gonna privateer that Brioche. You can have chocolate chip. Sometimes you can get them with raisins in. You know, maybe you just have them. Maybe they're just like blank, but it's okay because they're a bit sweet. They're a bit more filling than maybe some sweets, or maybe a cake's a bit too dense, a bit too sickly for you. Brioche.
So I've evolved into having a strange problem with brioche now. Is since having COVID and basically up until now still having no real functional sense of smell, it comes back in drags and waves. And when all you can smell for about a week solid is the most sickly sweet scent of fresh brioche, now all I can think of whenever I smell brioche is the smell of human sick. And I just thought I'd share that with you all.
Oh dear, you clearly were unworthy of the brioche.
Hey, I still eat brioche. I still fucking love brioche. It's a fantastic snack.
You love sick? You love eating human sick
No,
flavored...
it was for like 1 week. I wish I'd never opened my mouth.
I don't want to hear any of this slander against brioche. If you don't like the smell of brioche, well, brioche doesn't like the smell of you. My friend doesn't like you. I don't like you. Yeah.
Have you ever gotten those, like little brioche rolls and then putting one on each of your fingers? And then gently caressed your friend's face.
Oh,
the old brioche fingers.
I remember one time someone putting it on their finger and then they were using a mouse, so they're clicking away with it, just
I remember this.
Squidging the brioche into the mouse button. And after they were finished, they were like, well, I have a hollow brioche, what should I do? So they found an empty pizza box from Domino's, they grabbed the garlic butter dip.
No, stop it.
Cracked it open and just poured it inside the brioche, and we both shared a garlic-filled brioche. And you know what? It wasn't bad. It was weird.
It was
but it was
hell
nice.
to watch. It was actually hell to witness with my two poor human eyes.
D, you'll come to love the weird taste of garlic brioche.
I hope I die.
Yeah, I've said my piece.
All right.
Peace out. That's it.
Yeah,
I'm going to go and eat a brioche. Bye.
I think that is us for the week then. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time with more stuff. Any topic suggestions or feedback, drop us a comment or email us at phenomenautspodcast@gmail.com. Alternatively, you can now tweet us at phenomenautspod on Twitter. So peace out, folks, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.